India has no choice but to address climate change, because even if you only care about development, development is going to become harder and harder in a warming world. And we've seen that with the increasing frequency of violent storms. We've seen that with things like the locust swarm, which some interesting research has traced back to unusual weather patterns in parts of Africa that are in part climate induced. So development is going to get harder and harder. We have no option but to address climate change. But we have no option but to address it in the context of India's development challenges. So our argument is we have to use this idea of co-benefits, appropriate this idea of co-benefits, to creatively look for things that bring together the sort of development we want, not sort of the growth-first development, but the sort of sustainable development we want, in ways that also support mitigation and lead to a better quality of life. I've given you some of the examples around public transport and housing and so on and so forth. And there's another point to this. India is a really good place to be taking on this approach because we haven't locked into many of our development patterns. Our cities are still being built. Our housing is still being built. Our freight corridors are still being devised. We have an opportunity to tunnel through that high carbon phase and go straight to lower carbon infrastructure. So it's lock-in of infrastructure, but it's also lock-in of mindsets, right?
Learn more about our conversation on the Tarar podcast, now streaming on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram.